Hi everyone. Okay, in this video I'm just going to run through a very quick example on how to read an input from a PLC and move that into VBA in Excel. So what we need to start with is we need to start just setting up our PLC, our IPC, so that the I/O attached to it is then available via ADS. So ADS being the mechanism we use to communicate to all different parts of the TwinCAT infrastructure, I'd say. So what we've got here, you can see I'm currently connected to my little C6015. I'm just going to put it into config mode, just so I can scan the I/O. So once that's done, I'll open it up and we'll just say scan. Okay, I'm going to leave this one unticked, the automation protocol, because I'll just use the other port. For the moment, I'm just interested in what's connected via the EtherCAT master. Scan for boxes, yes. And I've got an EK1100, some I/O. Can activate free run for the moment. EK1100, some I/O, and an EK1110. Just as a little example here. So this is what I'm planning to read into Excel. With reading any ADS symbol, if we were going to do it via the PLC, ADS, we typically speak to things via an index and offset. And we're using a form of an ADS server to serve that to us. When we've got basic I/O that's just running in the background here, that's not available initially. So most people will be reading and writing from PLC variables. For this example, I'm not going to go that route. I'm going to show that you can read from the I/O directly with very minimal input on this side. So one of the things we need to do is go into this image here on this EtherCAT master, the one that's looking after all of these channels. And the tab along the top here, we're going to go to ADS, enable ADS server. This number is going to be important, so I'm just going to copy and paste that just off screen just so I have it. So that's the port we're going to be asking for symbols via index and offset. And I'm also going to create symbols for the time being. You don't need to, but it just makes things a lot easier. Right, okay, so those two ticked. The last thing we need to do is, again, usually when you drop in a PLC program and you assign variables to something in here, that's enough to set the EtherCAT master up and have cyclic comms for them all. When we don't have a PLC program, there's no one that looks after that. So a way around that, if you don't want to set up a PLC project, we can set up a task, and we're going to add a new task with an image. So this task here is going to be what's responsible for just touching at least one part of this I/O, which will fire up EtherCAT. So in here, I can now say inputs. I'm going to add a new input. It's going to be Boolean, and I'm just going to call this WC state because I'm hoping to attach it to one of the WC states of the card, which will be enough just to fire it up. Okay, so that almost shows up as you would a normal PLC variable that you can tie to some I/O. So with this, I'm going to tie that to the WC state of terminal 2. And OK that. We'll just save, activate the configuration. And there we go. Right. Next, on channel 2, if I just view this input, I have a push button attached. So as I press the push button, we can see it switching. I'm going to leave that on for the moment because that will be handy for us to see in our Excel. So that's all we need to do initially, just to allow all of this I/O to be read out by setting up a symbol task just attached to one of the things. And this is now possible to read this in Excel. So I'm going to swap over to first this page here. So this is our page. I'll put the link on this video. This is our page which shows you how to set up something in Visual Basic 6. So this is close enough for us to use in Excel. There will be a minor change which I'm going to do where I'm sure VBA programmers amongst you will be able to do this in different ways. This is just a way I'm going to show you. I'm going to open up Excel and I need to go into the Developer tab. This can be done by going File, Options, into your ribbon and tick Developer because you need to have that in order to access this Visual Basic tab here. And the first things we're going to do is go into Tools and References because we need one of the DLLs in order to connect to ADS. So we're just going to go into Beckhoff, and it's this first one here, TC ADS DLL. We're just going to tick that, which allows this VBA to use it. Next, I'm just going to go into this workbook, just give me somewhere to write. And now I'm going to start doing a little bit of copying. So I'm going to take this form load out. That's going to be something I'm going to use in this example. Let's just drop that down a little bit. And I'm just going to example. Okay, so it's just my one subroutine example run. It's going to do all the work for me. I'm not going to break this out into multiple different things. So we can see up here it comes with some variables which we can use to start with. It also as well sets up a net ID of the thing we're going to connect to. So when it refers to the net ID, it's actually the net ID of your locally connected target. I am using something remote, which means I have to use it. Had this have been running on your own PC, local, you can keep that as 0.0.000, and that will connect to your local. You can see here as well, in the example, they're pointing to port 801. Now that's the default for TwinCAT 2. TwinCAT 3 default PLC program port is 851. But in our example, we're not using the PLC. We're going to be getting this directly from the ADS server we have enabled on our input image, our ESCAP master's image. Now, this was 27906. This is that was the number I said about writing down. That's what's found inside here, 27906. That's the number we're going to be using. Okay. The other thing I'm just going to borrow from this is I'm going to read Boolean. So they've already done the heavy lifting for us. So I'm just going to take that out here and go back to my Excel. Oops, go back to my Visual Basic of Excel. Just drop that in underneath. So I've got a function I can use. The only main difference as well compared to this example is it's this one here. So they've got a global ADS variable which they're using. I'm not going to use it as global. I'm going to actually put it into this example run. And I'm just going to get rid of with events. So that means that this subroutine is going to have its own ADS, then its own client, its own net ID. And that means that this function isn't able to read that globally. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pass it in as an argument. So that's the only real change I'm going to make to this entire example. So this is going to be our space. This is where we're going to be doing our reading. And oops. Again, that's not the way to do a comment in VBA. And we can see here this read boolean. This is them using the function itself, and they've got an example of which index and offset they were going to read from. Right. So first off, I'm going to dim result, and that is going to be as boolean. And then next, I'm going to say my result is going to be equal to what comes back from read boolean, and then just so we can see it without having to do any debugging, message box result. That should be enough. Okay, so like I said before, we're going to pass this ADS into this function itself because at the moment it does need it. It uses ads.read, and I've not made that global. So that means I'm going to be adding that as an argument to this one here. So I'm just going to pass in ADS as this. And now in this one here, I just have to pass the ADS that we're using. So read boolean using this ADS, use the index and offset. So that's the main change I'm going to make. Next, we need to go in and fill out all our actual details. So our port was 27906. Just going to paste that in. Next, the net ID, so I've already got that written down in advance, just so you don't need to watch me write it. So 169.254.166, which is this number up here. And just go back. And the last part of all of this is what index and offset do we need to use? Good question. So we're going to move back onto here. I use Scope Target Browser. There's other ways of pulling this up. It allows me to open up inside the active IPC that I'm running. It's found that there's a port already open, and that's the ADS port of image 2. Just scrolling this back, I can now browse the terminals. So I'm going to browse for this terminal 1008, it's input channel 2. And if I just move my way along, it tells me the index group and offset here. So F031. So let's just move this across. This one here. So F031, and we can see that was in hexadecimal. So I'm just going to, the second one of these is hex as well. So just to keep it all consistent, let's just bring this back up. And 139 in hex is the offset. So 139. There we go. Okay, so that should be enough as long as we filled all this in correctly. So we're going to use this net ID, this port. We're going to attempt to read a Boolean, make it come out on a message box. And the main difference being I used ADS local to this subroutine, and I just pass it in to the function so the function can use it rather than having a global. Okay, so it's coming back and saying it's true at the moment, which it is. And that's just running that a few times. It's coming back with true. If I just switch the switch and turn it off, hit play, we're now getting false. So there we go. So hopefully that's enough. That's the start of using ADS inside Visual Basic. And as I say, make your way through here because this is all about writing longs, reading longs, write ball, read ball. You really can just copy and paste. And if you're following the same style as me, just add the ADS to the front of this. If not, if you're working with something that gives you some forms and some global variables, then you can just keep it at the top anyway. Okay, I hope this has helped out, and I'll put this example